All rise. Veuillez vous lever.
Thank you very much. May I invite the court's registrar, Mr. Peter Lewis, to introduce today's occasion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, 6 new judges shall be sworn in after making their solemn undertaking pursuant to Article 45 of the Rome Statute and Rule 5 of the Rules of Procedure. Their term in office will commence tomorrow. At the same time, as happens every 3 years, the mandate of 6 judges comes to an end as part of the regular turnover of the court's judicial bench. In normal circumstances, in this ceremony, we would present the departing judges with a plaque to commemorate their service. Because of the COVID measures, the plaques will be handed over to the judges in their offices after the ceremony. One of the 6 judges to whom we bid farewell is the President of the Court, Judge Chile Bowie. He was elected to the court in December 2011. His term in office began on the 11th of March 2012, and he was called to full-time duty on the 16th of March 2012. He served initially in the trial division, notably presiding in the Ruto and Sang trial, as well as serving as division president for 1 year. Since 2018, he has been assigned to the Appeals Division, where he has sat on several significant cases, including as presiding judge in the proceedings concerning head of state immunity in the al-Bashir case, as well as in the appeals proceedings in the cases of Messrs. Bagbo and Blay Good. As president of the court since 2018, Judge Bowie has led the institution with great commitment during a period of unprecedented challenges. In the face of adversity, his confidence in the court's mission has never wavered. He has always insisted that despite the difficulties we face, the court must do its work for the sake of the victims, for the sake of the international community, and for the sake of future generations. Mr. President, thank you for all your hard work for the good of the court and international criminal justice. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le greffier. Comme vous l'annonce le greffier, nous sommes ici rassemblés pour assister à la prestation du serment de 6 juges nouvellement élus à la Cour. Comme le requiert le statut de Rome, ils prennent leur engagement solennel en séance publique. Je leur souhaite la bienvenue. Nous allons aussi prendre congé de 6 juges qui ont servi la Cour pendant 9 ans, dont le mandat vient à échéance aujourd'hui. Je précise d'emblée qu'en raison des difficultés logistiques liées à la pandémie de COVID-19, la juge élue Alexis Windsor participe à cette séance à distance en visioconférence, ce qui n'a aucune incidence sur la validité de l'engagement solennel qu'elle s'apprête à prendre. Le premier vice-président de la Cour, le juge Robert Fremmer, et le second vice-président, le juge Marc Perrin de Bruxelles, se joignent à moi pour cet événement important. Sont également présents dans la salle d'audience les juges Howard Morrison, Jeffrey Henderson, Olga Herrera et Raul Pangalanga, dont les mandats arrivent à expiration. En raison des exigences de distanciation physique liées à la pandémie de COVID-19, les 11 autres juges de la Cour sont à titre exceptionnel absents de la salle d'audience, mais ils sont connectés en ligne à la séance. Je les remercie de leur participation. Beside the registrar, Mr. Peter Lewis, I welcome the presence in the courtroom of the ICC prosecutor, Ms. Fatou Bensouda, on this important occasion, as well as the Vice President of International Criminal Court Bar Association, Ms. Jennifer Nouri, representing counsel for the defense and victims as an integral part of the court's judicial proceedings. We're also grateful for the presence of the President of the Assembly of States Parties, Ms. Sylvia Fernandez, in order for her to witness the solemn undertakings as required by our rules of procedure and evidence. I take this opportunity to congratulate Ms. Fernandez on her election as President of the Assembly of States Parties last December. I have already done that in an earlier correspondence. I take the occasion to say so again in person. The 6 new judges will commence their 9-year tenure tomorrow, as the registrar announced. At the same time, the mandates of 6 judges, including myself, as the registrar also informed, come to an end as part of the regular periodic turnover of the court's judicial bench. This happens every 3 years. Indeed, the judges of the International Criminal Court cannot be re-elected. Each judge can only serve 1 term of 9 years. And I must here recognize the contributions of each of my colleagues who were about to finish their service at the court. I'm most grateful to the registrar for his kind words in relation to me. Judge Robert Fremmer, first Vice President of the Court. He was elected for a term of 9 years in December 2011, and he assumed full-time duty at the ICC on the 1st of March 2013. Assigned to the trial division, Judge Fremmer has sat on several cases during his mandate, including the trials in the Ruto and Sang case, as well as in the Intaganda case, in which the chamber issued reparations order this past Monday. He served for 1 year as president of the trial division, and since 2018 as first vice president of the court. As a member of the presidency, he has always been a voice of reason and integrity, and it has been a great pleasure indeed to work with him. Before joining the ICC, Judge Fremmer was an ad litem judge of the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, and before that, a justice of the Supreme Court of the Czech Republic. Judge Howard Morrison. He was elected for a term of 9 years in December 2011, and he assumed full-time duty on the 16th of March 2015. He has served his entire term in the appeals division, participating in a large number of significant cases, including as presiding judge in a number of them. He served on 2 occasions as the president of the appeals division. His contributions to the court's jurisprudence will have long-lasting effect. Before joining the ICC, Judge Morrison was a judge in the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. He also served as defense counsel in various international tribunals and as a judge in the UK courts, including courts martial. Judge Olga Herrera Kabucha. She was elected for a term of 9 years in December 2011, and she assumed full-time duty at the ICC on the 1st of May 2013. Judge Herrera has made wide-ranging contributions to the court's work, both in the trial division to which she is assigned, and where she served as a division president for 1 year, as well as in pre-trial chamber. She has sat on several chambers that issued orders on reparation for victims, setting important precedents in international law. Her diligent service at the court and unimpeachable sense of dignity has been very highly appreciated by her colleagues. Before joining the ICC, Judge Herrera was president of the criminal chamber in the Court of Appeal in the province of Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. She has also been a public prosecutor as well as taught law and served as dean of the law faculty. Judge Jeffrey Henderson. He was elected a judge of the court in December 2013 to fill a vacancy with a term until the 10th of March 2021. His term as ICC judge began on the 1st of February 2014, and he assumed full-time duty 2 days later. In addition to his extensive work in the trial division to which he was assigned, he has, in parallel, served on pretrial chamber 3 in several significant cases as well as in the appeals chamber. He also performed the function of president of the division for a year. His selfless service and commitment to the court, going even beyond his judicial duties, will be greatly cherished by the court and its judges for years to come. Before joining the ICC, Judge Henderson was a trial judge in the criminal division of the High Court of Justice of Trinidad and Tobago. He was previously also the Director of Public Prosecution in Trinidad and Tobago. Judge Raul Pangalanga. He was elected as judge of the court in June 2015 to fill a vacancy with a term until the 10th of March 2021. His term as ICC judge began on the 13th of July 2015, and he assumed full-time duty on the 17th of August 2015. He has made long-lasting contributions to the trial division to which he is assigned, while also serving a number of interlocutory appeals. He served as president of the trial division for 1 year. Judge Pangalangan presided over the court's first case involving charges of destruction of cultural property, including the groundbreaking reparation proceedings. He furthermore served in the court's first trial for offenses against administration of justice. His service has been particularly distinguished, rendered with a robust intellect that enabled his colleagues at all times. Before joining the ICC, Judge Pangalangan was a professor of law and previously also law dean at the University of the Philippines. He has taught and lectured widely elsewhere. He was the Philippine delegate in the drafting of the Rome Statute in 1998 and co-chaired the ratification campaign in the Philippines. I thank all of you most sincerely for the immense efforts that you have made for the benefit of the court and humanity. Thank you. May I now invite the President of the Assembly of States Parties to address us. Madam President, the floor is yours.
Monsieur le Président de la Cour, Mesdames et Messieurs le juge, Madame le procureur, Monsieur le greffier, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, j'ai le grand honneur d'être ici aujourd'hui pour assister au nom de l'Assemblée des États parties à la prestation des serments de 6 nouveaux juges de la Cour pénale internationale élus au cours de la première reprise de la 19e session de l'Assemblée des États parties à New York du 18 au 23 décembre 2020. Conformément au statut de Rome, les États ont tenu compte de la nécessité d'assurer la représentation des principaux systèmes juridiques ainsi qu'une représentation géographique équitable et une représentation équitable des hommes et des femmes. En ce faisant, ils ont même réussi, et nous pouvons nous en réjouir, à assurer une parité parfaite des hommes et des femmes dans la composition des juges. Les juges ainsi élus sont Madame la juge Althea Violet Alexis Windsor, Trinité et Tobago. Madame la juge Joanna Connor, Royaume-Uni. Monsieur le juge Gocha Lorkipanitse, Géorgie. Madame la juge Miata Maria Samba, Sierra Leone. Madame la juge Maria del Socorro Flores Liera, Mexique. Monsieur le juge Sergio Gerardo Ugalde Godínez, Costa Rica. Votre prestation de serment en vue d'exercer vos fonctions respectives de manière impartiale et consciencieuse se déroule en audience publique, comme le prescrit le statut de Rome, bien que dans un nouveau format pour s'adapter aux circonstances extraordinaires actuelles. Cette cérémonie, qui a lieu tous les 3 ans, marque le remplacement d'un tiers des juges de la Cour, assurant ainsi la continuité institutionnelle par le renouvellement. Par conséquent, en même temps que nous accueillons les 6 juges nouvellement élus, nous faisons nos adieux à 6 juges qui quittent la Cour aujourd'hui. Monsieur le juge Raul Pangalanga, Philippines. Monsieur le juge Chile Bowie Osuji, Nigeria. Monsieur le juge Robert Fremmer, République tchèque. Monsieur le juge Jeffrey Henderson, Trinité et Tobago. Et Madame la juge Olga Herrera Carbucha, République dominicaine. Et bien sûr, Monsieur le juge Howard Morrison, Royaume-Uni. Vos mandats respectifs étant terminés, il est temps pour vous de quitter la Cour et la belle ville de La Haye pour retourner dans vos propres pays, communautés et amis. Comme il vient d'être rappelé par le président de la Cour, vous avez contribué à la jurisprudence de la Cour par votre participation aux procédures préliminaires, aux procès et aux appels au sein de vos sections et affaires respectives. Vous avez aussi contribué au développement institutionnel de la Cour par vos initiatives pour accélérer et améliorer les procédures, améliorer les méthodes de travail et renforcer la collégialité. L'Assemblée apprécie grandement cette contribution importante au développement de la justice internationale. Messieurs le juge Chile Bowie et Robert Fremmer, vous avez ajouté à vos responsabilités judiciaires l'exercice de celles découlant de vos fonctions respectives de président et de premier vice-président de la Cour. Permettez-moi d'exprimer la gratitude de l'Assemblée pour les efforts importants que vous avez déployés en ces fonctions de direction. Mr. President, Your Honors, being a judge at the court is an immense privilege and responsibility. Your work at the court inevitably raises huge expectations among all those directly and indirectly concerned. You are called to deliver justice for the gravest international crimes, often committed in situations of systemic and extreme violence. You are called to assess the facts and determine the individual responsibility of those allegedly involved. The accused expect and deserve to have trials conducted in a fair, effective, and impartial manner. The victims and affected communities expect and deserve high quality and compassionate justice that ensures them sufficient access to the proceedings, an adequate opportunity to participate and obtain reparation. The Assembly of State Parties has entrusted you, the judges of the International Criminal Court, with this privilege, but also grave responsibility. On behalf of the Assembly of State Parties, I welcome you to the bench of the court. The credibility and legitimacy of the court will, to a great extent, be reflected in your ability to be both fair and impartial judges, as well as efficient and effective in the overall management of your situations and cases. The Assembly of State Parties, and more broadly the international community, expect you to deliver justice in an expeditious, efficient, and effective manner. This is not an easy task, but let me assure you, you are not alone and you are not getting into uncharted waters. While the court continues to be a relatively young institution, it has certainly matured and gained experience. The judiciary and other organs of the court have introduced reforms to improve each one's performance, as well as a more predictable and cohesive judicial and institutional culture. The Assembly of State Parties applauds all these efforts, but also take into account the need to pursue the one court principle to which attributes utmost importance. The Assembly has, in addition, taken a decisive step to promote a comprehensive and much-needed reform to enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of the overall Rome system. Indeed, you joined the court at a moment in which a review mechanism led by 2 state representatives will conduct the implementation process of recommendations put forward by an eminent group of experts. This process, which entails an inclusive dialogue with the court and other relevant stakeholders, is a top priority for the Assembly. I am confident that this dialogue will be enriched by the ideas and experience brought to the court by the distinguished judges that joined today. Mr. President, to conclude, on behalf of the Assembly of State Parties, I wish the incoming judges a successful and joyful experience at the court. We count on your hard work, experience, and commitment. You can count on the support and cooperation of the Assembly of State Parties, as well as the support of many within the international community. The court, with its weaknesses and strengths, continues to be a central part of that system and an indispensable piece of a rules-based international order. To the outgoing judges, I wish you a smooth transition and much success in your future endeavors. All of you, incoming and outgoing judges, can be proud and grateful for the opportunity you have been granted to take part in the development of a much-needed global system of justice. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Madam President. We will now proceed with the solemn undertakings. In accordance with Article 45 of the Rome Statute, before taking up their respective duties, the judges shall each make a solemn undertaking in open court to exercise their respective functions impartially and conscientiously. Once more, I invite the President of the Assembly of Six Parties to witness the undertakings. May I first invite Joanna Connor. Judge Connor has practiced law for more than 45 years as a judge, including as senior barrister of the rank of Queen's Counsel in England and Wales. She served since 2012 as a judge of the Crown Court of that country, trying some of the most serious and complex criminal cases. For 8 years, she was a senior prosecutor at International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. She has organized and participated in training programs on international criminal law and advocacy for judges and lawyers from all over the world. May I invite her to step forward for her undertaking.
Ms. Connor, you have been elected judge of the International Criminal Court by the Assembly of State Parties. I ask you to raise your right hand and, in accordance with Rule 5.1a of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, pledge your solemn undertaking.
I, Joanna Connor, solemnly undertake that I will perform my duties and exercise my powers as a judge of the International Criminal Court, honorably, faithfully, impartially, and conscientiously, and that I will respect the confidentiality of the investigations and prosecutions and the secrecy of the deliberations.
Thank you. You may proceed to sign your declaration before the registrar.
Gocha Lotkipanidze. Judge Lotkipanidze has long experience in the field of international law as a senior state official, diplomat, and professor of law. He has been the Minister of Justice of Georgia since last year, and before that, Deputy Minister since 2012. From 2018 to 2021, he was a member of the court's Board of Directors of the Trust Fund for Victims, representing the Eastern European group of states. As a representative of Georgia, he was closely involved in the negotiations leading to the adoption of the Rome Statute. Judge, please step forward for your undertaking.
Mr. Lotkipanidze, you have been elected judge of the International Criminal Court by the Assembly of State Parties. I ask you to raise your right hand and, in accordance with Rule 5.1a of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, pledge your solemn undertaking.
I, Gocha Lotkipanidze, solemnly undertake that I will perform my duties and exercise my powers as a judge of the International Criminal Court honorably, faithfully, impartially, and conscientiously, and that I will respect the confidentiality of the investigations and prosecutions and the secrecy of the deliberations.
Thank you. You may proceed to sign your declaration before the registrar.
Next, I invite Maria del Socorro Flores Liera. Judge Flores Liera has had a long career in Mexico's Foreign Service, serving most recently as permanent representative to the United Nations and other international organizations in Geneva. She has participated in the negotiation of several international instruments in the field of public international law, including the Rome Statute, as well as the elements of crimes to the Rome Statute and the court's rules of procedure and evidence. She has served as chairperson of the drafting committee at the 33rd International Conference of the Red Cross and the Red Crescent. Judge, please step forward for your undertaking.
Ms. Flores Liera, you have been elected judge of the International Criminal Court by the Assembly of State Parties. I ask you to raise your right hand and, in accordance with Rule 5.1a of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, pledge your solemn undertaking.
I, Maria del Socorro Flores Liera, solemnly undertake that I will perform my duties and exercise my powers as a judge of the International Criminal Court honorably, faithfully, impartially, and conscientiously, and that I will respect the confidentiality of the investigations and prosecutions and the secrecy of the deliberations.
Thank you. You may proceed to sign your declaration before the registrar.
Next, I invite Sergio Gerardo Ugalde Godinez. Judge Ugalde has a long career in the field of international law, most recently teaching at the University for Peace in Costa Rica from 2016 to 2018, while serving as Costa Rica's ambassador to the Netherlands. He was Vice President of the Assembly of States Parties to the Rome Statute and coordinator of the Assembly's Hague Working Group. He has advised and represented Costa Rica before numerous international courts, as well as the Hague Conference on Private International Law and the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. Judge, please step forward.
Señor Ugalde Godínez, you have been elected judge of the International Criminal Court by the Assembly of State Parties. I ask you to raise your right hand and, in accordance with Rule 5.1a of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, pledge your solemn undertaking.
I, Sergio Gerardo Ugalde Godínez, solemnly undertake that I will perform my duties and exercise my powers as judge of the International Criminal Court honorably, faithfully, impartially, and conscientiously, and that I will respect the confidentiality of the investigations and prosecutions and the secrecy of the deliberations.
Thank you. You may proceed to sign your declaration before the registrar.
Next, I invite Miata Maria Samba. Judge Samba is a senior judge in the judiciary of Sierra Leone, most recently on the court's Supreme Court, and before that on the Court of Appeals and the High Court. She is also a judge of the Residual Special Court for Sierra Leone since last year. She has led the prosecution of high-profile cases and represented, on a pro bono basis, victims of sexual violence. She has, in the past, worked with the Office of the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. She also worked in the Office of the Prosecutor of the Special Court for Sierra Leone. Judge, please step forward.
Ms. Samba, you have been elected judge of the International Criminal Court by the Assembly of State Parties. I ask you to raise your right hand and, in accordance with Rule 5.1a of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, pledge your solemn undertaking.
I, Miata Maria Samba, solemnly undertake that I will perform my duties and exercise my powers as a judge of the International Criminal Court honorably, faithfully, impartially, and conscientiously, and that I will respect the confidentiality of investigations and prosecutions and the secrecy of the deliberations.
Thank you. You may proceed to sign your declaration before the registrar.
Next, I call on Althea Violet Alexis Windsor, who, because of the circumstances of travel in these strange times, is unable to join us in the courtroom, but will be doing her declaration from the remote location in her country, Trinidad and Tobago. Judge Alexis Windsor has served since 2013 as a judge of the Supreme Court of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Before that, she was a trial counsel and appeals counsel at the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, participating in prosecutions of crimes against humanity, war crimes, and genocide, including charges of sexual violence. She has also served as Senior State Counsel in the Office of the Public Prosecutions and as Deputy Director of the Human Rights Unit in the Ministry of the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago. Judge will be sworn in from where she is.
Ms. Alexis Windsor, you have been elected judge of the International Criminal Court by the Assembly of State Parties. I ask you to raise your right hand and, in accordance with Rule 5.1a of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, pledge your solemn undertaking.
I, Althea Violet Alexis Windsor, solemnly undertake that I will perform my duties and exercise my powers as a judge of the International Criminal Court honorably, faithfully, impartially, and conscientiously, and that I will respect the confidentiality of the investigations and prosecutions and the secrecy of the deliberations.
Thank you. You may proceed to sign your declaration.
Thank you very much, Madam President. The solemn undertakings of the 6 judges of the International Criminal Court have now been done in accordance with Article 45 of the Rome Statute. On behalf of the court, I offer my heartfelt congratulations to the newly sworn-in colleagues, you are embarking on a journey that will be challenging as well as highly rewarding. As the President of the Assembly of States Parties just said, you have the rare privilege, but more importantly, the heavy responsibility to serve on the judicial bench of the world's first and only permanent judicial institution established to adjudicate the gravest crimes under international law. Our work is done under the world's spotlight. The international community has invested immense efforts in creating this court. Victims across the globe look to The Hague in hopes of justice when domestic courts fail to provide redress. In sum, the expectations are high and the challenges can seem daunting at times, but I am confident that your stellar experience and stalwart antecedents will stand you in good stead to meet those expectations and challenges. Once again, congratulations. At this point in the proceedings, I should pause to underscore a very important detail that the President of the Assembly of States Parties already mentioned in her speech. We marked the World Women's Day at the beginning of this week, and it gives me immeasurable pleasure to announce that with the departure of the 6 outgoing judges, there will now be a perfect gender balance on the bench of the ICC. For the first time, there'll be 9 women and 9 men. There are not many courts, national or international, that can have that composition as of today. Before we conclude this session, please allow me to offer these parting thoughts as the curtain draws on my term as President of the International Criminal Court. Whenever I feel called upon to tell the story of the ICC, I do not begin it in 1998 when the court statute was adopted. I begin the story in 1919 when Dean Ferdinand Lanaud of Paris University Faculty of Law and his colleague, Professor Albert de la Pradelle, declared Un nouveau droit international est né. Translation, a new idea of international law is born. It was a eureka moment. Before that moment, they had been agonizing about how to hold accountable the authors of the breaches of international law, such as were committed during the First World War. Professors Lanaud and de la Pradelle recognized that the international law of the time did not permit the highly placed suspects of World War I crimes to be tried in national jurisdictions outside their own countries because of the principle of foreign sovereign immunity, which forbade heads of state and senior state officials to be tried in the courts of foreign countries. So what did Lanaud and de la Pradelle consider as the solution around that obstacle? Go to international law and create an international criminal tribunal, they declared, where no one, not even emperors, kings, or queens, could claim immunity. It was a brand new idea, and voila, un nouveau droit international est né. They enthused. 3 years ago, on the occasion of the 20th anniversary of the adoption of the Rome Statute, I engaged the question of how our generation of public servants, diplomats, academics, and civil society would account for what we did with the ICC that was entrusted to our care, which at its creation was one of humanity's most improbable achievements. The improbability of that achievement is underscored by the fact that that dream of Lanaud and de la Pradelle that started life in 1919 was only realized in 1998, after almost 80 years. And when I ask the question about our generation, what have we done with the ICC, I do not limit myself only to the citizens of countries that are already states parties to the Rome Statute. That question must also trouble citizens of nations who are yet to join the Rome Statute and who should do so. This is because this court belongs to every citizen of the world who abhors the idea of genocide, torture, terrorism, persecution, and other crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression. So, on my way out, I return to that question. How would our generation, in that larger sense, account for what we did with the ICC? That question's purpose is made more acute by the extraordinary experience of the ICC in the last 2 years or so, during which the court sustained the most intense political attacks, which attacks have continued in some quarters. Those attacks ask us that question. That is to say, have we done all that is possible in us to ensure that this court is used precisely for the purpose that actuated its creation? The victims of genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression deserve nothing less from every one of us, lucky enough to enjoy the privilege of playing a role or having a voice in the affairs of this court. And on a personal level then, for each of us, that question boils down to this. Have I done the very best that is possible within me in service of the court's mandate, and not merely what I consider to be good enough, or even what I consider to be more than good enough? That question is for every one of us. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of today's ceremony. I congratulate our 6 new colleagues who were sworn in today one more time, and I wish them every success in their future in the court's work. And I also thank one more time the 6 outgoing judges who served this court during its most difficult experience to date. I also thank family members and everyone else who have given support and who have been present today, mostly virtually, and those who have witnessed this important event in the life of our institution. I thank you all. The session is now concluded.
All rise, veuillez vous lever.